Karma is a boomerang. Jorge Martin's humbling return to Aprilia. This isn't a reunion. This is a forced walk of shame in leathers. Jorge Martin, reigning MotoGP world champion, the man who wanted to rewrite his destiny, just got checkmated in full daylight, and not by luck or circumstance. This wasn't a twist of fate. It was a calculated kill. A methodical, cold-blooded lockdown executed by a CEO with ice in his veins, Massimo Rivola, and backed by the iron hand of MotoGP's top brass, Carmelo Ezpeleta. The same Jorge Martin who looked the world in the eye and said, "I'm out," is now crawling back into the Aprilia garage, wearing the same colors he tried to escape. You can smell the humiliation from pit lane. And here's the thing, it's not even about riding anymore. This is war, psychological, legal, emotional, corporate, a total kill shot dressed up as a contract clause. Let's break it down. The attempted escape that backfired. Martin thought he could wiggle his way out. He and his agent, Valera, the same guy who's been playing puppet master across half the paddock, decided to activate what they thought was a clean exit clause. The goal? Leave Aprilia for 2026. Rumors said Honda. Others whispered KTM, maybe even a new Japanese-European hybrid project. Whatever the destination, it wasn't no alley. But Martin forgot one thing. He wasn't just walking away from a team. He was trying to walk away from a family that handed him the keys to the kingdom when no one else did. A factory seat, a captain's armband. They made him their North Star, and he ghosted them like a Tinder match after a dry coffee date. Valera went public in Assen, spitting lines like, he's free for 2026. Like Aprilia were just squatters on Jorge's timeline. Wrong. Massimo Rivola didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't even raise his voice. He just pulled out the contract and pointed to the signature. Then came the nuclear warhead. If you try to run, we'll see you in court. And not just that, Carmelo Ezpeleta backed Aprilia. MotoGP's top dog stood behind Rivola and said straight up, no team can register a contracted rider without mutual agreement. You ain't going nowhere unless Aprilia says so. End of story. You know what that is? That's not a negotiation. That's a checkmate. The illusion of power shattered. Martin wanted control, but he forgot this sport isn't ruled by talent alone. It's ruled by leverage. And for all his wins, all his poles, all his world champion swagger, he had none. He walked into a legal firefight with a water pistol. Aprilia came armed with a tank. Rivola knew what Martin would try before Martin himself knew. This wasn't a reactive strategy. This was a trap set months ago. Martin thought he could just smile and slide out the back door. Rivola was already at the gate with a shotgun. Aprilia didn't need to beg. They didn't need to talk. They sat back, watched the drama unfold, and let the world watch Martin squirm. That's psychological warfare at its purest. Letting a man dig his own grave, then handing him the shovel for the final scoop. And the best part? Aprilia said absolutely nothing. Massimo Rivola's words were colder than snow. Our position has never changed. The future is already fixed. Translation? You're not going anywhere, champ. Karma's brutal whiplash. There's a saying in racing paddocks across the world, some cliche burned into the garages and whispered in the team trucks. Karma is a boomerang. You throw it out and it always comes back, sometimes straight to your face. Jorge Martin felt that boomerang slice right through the air. He tried to leave Aprilia like a king walking off the throne, confident, undefeated, unbothered. But karma had its hand around his throat. That contract he signed in late 2024, it came back like a ghost dragging chains, reminding him, you swore loyalty and now you're owned by it. All those boardroom smiles and paddock waves don't mean jack when the ink dries and the lawyers circle. Misano test, spin control or surrender. Fast forward to Misano. Martin's been out most of the season. Sepang crash, training injury, Qatar wipeout. He's been missing in action while Bezzecchi stepped up and made Aprilia proud. Suddenly, Martin shows up in a private test. 60 laps, one smile, one quote, I'm really happy that this moment has finally arrived. Sure, Jorge, this wasn't passion. This was damage control. This was him trying to polish a turd and call it a diamond. He knew the optics. He knew the media storm was already brewing. So he showed up, lapped the bike, smiled for the cameras, and tried to sell the lie. But anyone who knows this sport saw through the mask. That wasn't joy, that was obligation. That was a world champion trying to stitch a torn relationship with duct tape. The Aprilia RSGP is no joke, it's a podium machine. Bezzecchi proved it, Aleix built it, Maverick touched it, and Martin, he ran from it. Now he's crawling back to the same seat he pissed on. Valera's blunder, a mastermind undressed. Let's not forget the man behind the curtain, Albert Valera. The guy who juggles the fates of riders like a Vegas magician with too many cards up his sleeve. He played with fire and he got torched. Valera tried to turn Martin into the biggest free agent story since Marquez's Ducati dance. He underestimated Rivola, he misread Espeleta, and worst of all, he believed his own hype. The man's been operating like he owns half the grid. But this move, this was his Icarus moment. He flew too close, and now he's burned. The lesson? In MotoGP, it's not about noise, it's about leverage. And the only man with leverage in this story was sitting in Noai with a folder full of legal paperwork and a straight face. Aprilia's silent flex. You want to talk gangster? Aprilia never begged. They never screamed. They didn't threaten like amateurs. They let the rules speak. They let Dorna handle the trash talk. That's real power. The kind of power where you don't need to shout. You just wait. And eventually, your enemies walk right back through the door they slammed shut. That's not revenge. That's dominance. Martin isn't back because he wants to be. He's back because he has to be. Because the sport slammed the cage shut and threw away the key. He's returning not as a king, but as a captive. And Aprilia, they're just watching. Czech GP, return or ritual? Now we head to Brno, the Czech Grand Prix, Martin's comeback ride. But this ain't a redemption arc. This is public theater. A gladiator forced back into the arena, not for glory, but for duty. He hasn't raced here on a MotoGP bike since 2020. He's rusty, he's bruised, and worst of all, he's emotionally battered. The paddock knows, the fans know, the team knows, even the sponsors know. This isn't a celebration, this is a verdict. The question of passion, dead or dormant. So what's left in Martin's tank? Is he still fueled by passion, or is he just grinding out the miles, hoping the months pass faster than the laps? He says all the right things. We have a lot of work ahead. We'll build for a strong end to the season. But words are cheap in MotoGP. Results talk. And right now, Martin's story isn't one of passion, it's of survival. Can he bounce back and go full beast mode? Maybe. But here's what's real. He's riding a bike he wanted to leave. He's working with a crew he ghosted, and he's trying to win races in colors he disrespected. That's a tall mountain to climb with a fractured soul. Will he stay or bite back? There's venom in the air, you can feel it. Will Martin play good soldier and grind through the next 18 months? Will he shut his mouth, drop his ego, and fight for Aprilia like he once promised? Or will he turn toxic? Passive-aggressive interviews, mechanical excuses, mid-season mind games, sabotage from within, because the snake doesn't always strike. Sometimes it just coils tighter and tighter until it snaps. Legacy on the line. This isn't about 2026 anymore. That door is bolted. Now it's about legacy. Jorge Martin is the reigning world champion, but history won't remember press releases or contract disputes. It remembers how champions carry themselves when they're backed into corners, when the dream dies, when pride is swallowed. Can Martin put his ego aside and ride like a man possessed, or will he become the next cautionary tale? Another name etched into MotoGP's Hall of Shame. Talent wasted, loyalty abandoned, legacy fractured. Right now he's walking the razor's edge. One bad race, one bad quote, one bad vibe, and this entire reunion becomes a circus. Final word, never forget who made you king. Let this be the lesson. You don't burn the hand that crowns you. Aprilia gave Jorge Martin everything. The bike, the status, the seat. And when he tried to walk, they didn't beg. They enforced. This wasn't a return. This was a capture. And as Martin rolls out of the Brno pit lane, every rider, every mechanic, every fan will be watching. Not because they want to see him win, but because they want to see what karma really looks like when it wears a #1 plate and chokes on regret. Welcome back, Jorge. Try not to look like a hostage when the visor goes down.